you write in the book about how you were not happy with the president's comments, in total after Charlottesville. And he had said, the good people on both sides. And he had said that he condemned the white supremacists, but a lot of people, especially people in communities of color, were like, too close, didn't like it, offended. The messaging should have been really clear, and they didn't think it was. So you made a comment about that publicly, and he called you up and said, let's have a meeting. And you write in the book about how you're like, oh boy, I feel how I feel, but I know what it's like, what's going to come my way. I'm in his crosshairs now, and he doesn't really lose fights. And so this could be highly unpleasant. So you sit down in the Oval Office with him, and something remarkable happened. For 20 minutes, what did he do?
Listen. Literally listened. I was stunned. I was looking forward to the lecture and hopefully only a 40% drop in my approval ratings at home. But that's not what happened. He actually did what people say he never does. And frankly, I've seen him do it almost every time I've been with him. He actually, Megyn, he listened. And he didn't just listen waiting for his turn to talk. He listened to the pain and the misery that so many African Americans have had to endure over generations, over a century. And as I talked through my grandfather's life and all the pain and the misery and the misdeeds that came his way, President Trump was silent. And when we finished, he did not embrace necessarily my entire view of race or equality, but he didn't reject it either. He simply said, help me help those I've offended. Now,
that's amazing.
For the president of the United States, who catches more Hades than the law allows, to say and said, let me tell you what we're going to do. Instead of doing that, he simply said, show me the way. And I offered him something that he understood, which was, let's create by redeveloping poor communities. And he said, I'm a developer. I understand incentives. And literally, we were off to the races. And without his support, we would not have seen in 2019, $29 billion from the private sector invested into the poorest communities across America that led to the lowest level of poverty ever recorded in America, and only a 4% gentrification rate in those communities. It's a stunning success story that he gets so little credit for, especially when it comes to the important topic of race and fairness in America.
Well, he and you, because you've been trying to sell that for a long, long time.
Years.
And you had no takers in the Oval Office prior to President Trump.
Truth.
Who it was sort of divine right order, right? Because it's like you point out, suddenly, without even realizing it, you were talking his language. Development, this is his business,
yes,
right? So he was like, yes, I get it. Let's do tax incentives for these big corporations to want to build in these opportunity zones, which tend to be largely minority, these inner city pockets that have dealt with more blight than they have opportunity. And that's what happened. He made it happen.
It was stunning. And frankly, when I think about even in my little state of South Carolina, the greatest state in all of the nation, the one thing I can tell you without any question is you go to a rural part of South Carolina called Hampton County. They haven't seen 100 jobs created probably in the last 5 years because of opportunity zones. There's this new thing called an agricultural tech center being developed in rural South Carolina, $300 million investment, 1,500 new jobs, permanent jobs, plus construction jobs, all because President Trump and I got together in the Oval Office after an obstacle, and we turned that obstacle into opportunities. And that's why I'm so convinced that America's greatest days are ahead of her. When two people who disagree on something can do it without being disagreeable, we can see the most remarkable things happen in the greatest country on earth. And when you read America, a Redemption Story, you'll hear more of those stories where the success of this nation came right after a failure, where the obstacles that we have all had to endure as a country presented the best opportunities, and the pain of our past has become the promise of our amazing future.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so insightful because I do think that, to see them go after Trump again, it's like he's already had to deal with the ruination attempted of his first term.
Yes.
With the Russiagate, which did not hold up to put it mildly.
Zero.
Two impeachments, the criminal prosecutions, the going after his family, his close advisors. Half of his administration has now been publicly embarrassed by Merrick Garland's DOJ and cuffs and, prosecuting people for contempt of Congress when they never did that under Democratic organizations or representation. In any event, I think people have had it. Like, this is a bridge too far, what they're doing to him. He's rough around the edges. I, of all people, know that. And he can do the mean tweets and all that. But there's a bigger story about President Trump. And it's exactly that opportunity zone story. It's what he did, what he made up for in sort of finesse, I guess, for lack of a better word, what he lacked in finesse. He made up for in policy that actually changed lives. I could tell you the same story about women, in the Anti-Sex Trafficking Act, which they could not get through with any other president. But then Donald J. Trump, despite some of his language about women and some of the accusations that have been made against him, he's the one who got it through, right? So it's like these Democrats have been told a story that is agenda-driven by the MSNBCs of the world. And the consequences of that are in the news every day. This is just the latest example.
Well, Megyn, you said it right. And one of the most important things that you've said is how exhausted Americans are with all the division, with all the sniping back and forth. It's one thing to target someone, but to target them for every single day of their administration and every single day after they've left, it's exhausting to watch. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you are conservative or progressive, the one thing we should all want is a consistent standard of justice applied to all Americans. And the one thing that we're seeing today is the contrast between justice for those we like and justice for those we don't like. And frankly, we know that if there are two standards, there's only injustice. There is no justice. And one of the things I struggled with through the book was the injustices that I felt that I was a victim of. And my grandfather walking to me one day and said, "You're never a victim. You may have been victimized in your life, but you have to choose today. Are you a victim or are you going to be victorious? There's only one road ahead. If you're going to be a victim, you will always be a victim. And if you're going to be victorious, you will have to overcome the challenges that present themselves in your face." And I'm thinking to myself, my grandfather born in 1921 in Sally, South Carolina, in the deep South, stepping off of a sidewalk if a white person was coming. This is the guy that's telling me not to be bitter and to never be a victim. The man that was forced to stop his education in the third grade, who never learned to read, is telling me, don't let what people call you decide what you answer to. This is a man whose wisdom was beyond my years and his years combined, but it was a man who had so much faith in America that somehow, some way, his children and his grandchildren would experience a very different America. And I am so thankful that I'm experiencing in many ways the best of what America is. And as you look at my grandfather and you look at my mother, you just know that the scars that they bear, I am now able to use that scar tissue to make it easier for the next generation. It shouldn't be about those of us in elected office. It shouldn't be about a swamp in Washington. It shouldn't be about the capitals in the nations, the capitals around the country. It should be about the people. The people are our greatest blessing, not those who are in government.
If you're like me, you're getting more and more concerned about the future. The market's all over the place. Inflation is at its highest level in 40 years. Interest rates are skyrocketing. Market experts not only predict a recession, but are using terms like economic hurricane and unprecedented. If you want to protect your future, call a precious metal dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. All it takes to get started is a simple, short phone call, and they will have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside your IRA or 401k. And they keep it simple. They are the highest rated firm in the country with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. And as an exclusive offer for my fans, if you call them right now, they're going to give you up to $1,500 of free silver and a free safe on qualifying orders. President Trump should call. I hear he's in need of a new one. Don't wait. Call now. Call 866-518-2955. That's 866-518-2955. Or text Megyn, my name, Megyn, to 65532. Again, call 866-518-2955 or text MEGYN to 65532. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.